Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by FPL Salah to preview Gameweek 35. Abdul, mate, pleasure to have you back on. A bit more of a chilled week, this one, perhaps, given the sort of craziness that's happened over the past few weeks. But your team's doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm on I've 88 points on my free hit all out. But so yeah, that was quite successful. Kind of going forward, I've got three free transfers. So I'm in quite a good position. I think got a few players there who are obviously minutes risk who we'll talk about. But yeah, almost in the top 100k. Hopefully, last four game weeks. Possibly maybe even the top 50k if we get lucky.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, now we're recording this on Thursday lunchtime before the Brentford Forest game. I think this is going to come out on Thursday, sadly, because I wanted to ask your predictions and then have the people in the comments say how wrong you were for like the high scoring players in this Thursday game. Let's do it anyway, even if this video does
Yeah.
come out before the game, and then people will watch it on Friday and then they can still kind of destroy us in the comments. So in terms of the players that are relatively highly owned, we've got Chris Wood and Mbeumo. And I think that's roughly it. Maybe the Forest defense as well. But apart from that, that's kind of it. Wiss has got a bit of ownership. Not that much
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, I think the main threats are Brian and Mbeumo and Wood. I think if you don't own them, you really want them to keep quiet. I think when Mbeumo's around about say 40%.
Is he that high?
Yeah, and
Wow.
Wood is around about 20 odd percent. So yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, I mean myself, I really want those guys to stay quiet. But I mean, I could see that honestly that game being quite low scoring, like maybe like a 1-1. Even if it is that, it'll probably be Wood and Mbeumo who get the goals. So who knows?
I'm gonna say that game is 2-1 to Forest, and I I don't think Mbeumo will score, and I think Wood might nick one. That's what I'm thinking there.
I would take that. I would take
Would you take that right now? Yeah.
I would take that right now. Yeah.
I mean, if with Mbeumo at 40% or whatever,
Yeah.
and being a midfielder and everything, yeah, and being good for bonus,
Definitely.
normally that is. I would definitely agree with you there. I'm also all out as well. So let us know in the comments, how do we do? And if you're watching this before the game, then yeah, give us your predictions as well. All right, let's talk about Game Week 35, mate.
Yeah.
The obvious transfer that everyone seems to be making this week is Saka to Mbeumo. Are you doing that? And if so, why?
Yeah, I think it is the obvious move. I just think with Brentford's fixtures for the last four are great. And Mbeumo is probably the best captaincy option this week, and we know that Arsenal are going to heavily rotate against Bournemouth. I mean, that's even if you look at the bookies odds, like they're at home to Bournemouth. They're now at 46% to win that game. So actually, Bournemouth are now actually favourites to win that game.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
since the so when the numbers when the odds first came out before the PSG game, they were at like 54% to win, so it was quite evens. After that result, they've gone down to 46%. So they're now actually even not in favourites to win the game. So obviously, with the bookmakers now, they're expecting heavy rotation as well, and that's reflected in the odds. And I think yeah, and I think Saka, I think it's quite obvious that he's probably going to be rested this game. At least probably get minutes off the bench. I mean, if somehow he does start, I don't see many minutes for him. So yeah, I think it's just an obvious move. And then Arsenal got Liverpool the week after. This seems to make sense on on so many levels. So that will probably be my move this week, and that'll be it. And I'll probably be Mbeumo captain as well.
Okay. Very interesting. I want to ask you about captaincy because I feel like if you're making that move and captaining Mbeumo, which
Yeah,
I'm planning on doing as well, that's like a no-brainer. Just looking at the predicted points here, everyone's sort of very similar, apart from Salah, who is still actually quite a way ahead. Now, is it just because Liverpool have won the league that we're not captaining Salah? Because I think in a normal game week, you wouldn't captain Mbeumo over Salah, so there must be other context there.
yeah. I think look, it's the game after they've won the league. Again, it's quite telling when you look at the bookies odds. Chelsea are favourites to win that game again.
Wow.
And they're probably expecting like either I wouldn't say they're going to heavily rotate, but you probably think they will rotate some players, maybe bring some youngsters in or something like that. Even like the remaining games as well. And the intensity is not going to be there because they've won the league, they've got nothing else to play for. I mean, I guess you can probably argue that Salah's going to play every game, probably going to play 90 minutes every game. He's got records to chase down. and I don't think Slot's gonna deny him of that. But even then, Chelsea away isn't the best fixture, I don't think. I think there's other better options there regardless.
Okay, and then apart from Mbeumo, Salah, there's Marmoush. I suppose there's, I don't know, there aren't loads of options. Maybe an Isak away at Brighton, I mean, this is the thing. No one's really speaking about Isak,
Yeah,
but Newcastle are, apart from a couple of like odd results where they don't seem to do well, they're doing really, really well, and they have their sights set on the Champions League, and
yeah.
Liverpool with nothing to play for compared to Newcastle with everything to play for. That's quite a difference. So why not Isak?
I honestly really like Isak this week as an
Okay.
option. Just as you mentioned, look, Newcastle got everything to play for. They need to, in their mind, they're going to need to win every single game because if they want to secure Champions League football, Isak's nailed the start on penalties. Brighton are actually quite leaky. They've conceded like 55 goals, which is like I think the sixth most goals in the league. They're bottom 10 for expected goals conceded. So they're not really like a watertight defense, Brighton. As I said, they're quite a Jekyll and Hyde team as well. Like, I wouldn't be surprised honestly if Newcastle put four past them. And I wouldn't be surprised if, Brighton come out with that with a 2-0 or a 3-0 win as well. It's
Yeah.
just one of those teams where he's really unpredictable. But I do like Isaac as an option. I mean, I think a lot will be put off him just because of his he has scored like twice over the last three games, but he's only had 6 points and the Newcastle scored about like 12, 13 goals in that time. So I think people are put off him a bit, but I still really like him as an option. But I just think even Marmoush there is probably a better option just with the fixture. Wolves at home. So Erling Haaland is back in training, and there is that as well. So I mean, there's that bit of I guess doubt over his minutes. I mean, I don't think he's gonna, Haaland's gonna come straight back in the team and Marmoush is benched, right? I think Haaland probably starts on the bench, but I think for this fixture, Marmoush will be pretty safe, so he's a good option too. But my top three options this week would probably be Mbeumo, Marmoush, and then Isaac. They'd be my top three, and I think this is actually a really good week to kind of gamble with the
Yeah.
captaincy without even getting burnt too hard because there's going to be a lot of, I guess, like casual players, I guess players who, or even like, dead teams who have left the teams and they're going to have Salah captain. So he is still going to be quite highly owned, but it's not going to be anywhere near as much as, it would have been under normal circumstances, if you know what I mean. And then it's going to be quite split, I think, between Mbeumo and Marmoush. So there's an opportunity there just to like, if you want to go for somebody else like a Isaac or if you've got a Watkins there, they're all good options.
Well, if it's between like Mbeumo and Marmoush, I would love that because I think Mbeumo is a much better captain
Yeah.
than Marmoush this week. And I mean, I was saying to you off camera, I don't really love Marmoush as a captain. I like him as an FPL pick, but I don't get that sort of that feeling of sort of comfort and consistency with him that
Yeah.
like a couple of games recently, that double for example, I know he had some chances, but he really didn't look that sort of involved in the game that much. And I was thinking, well, if he is going to get a return here, it's going to be more sort of a moment than actual consistent play.
Yeah.
Whereas in Burma, I feel like you sort of know what he's about. Like they'll get a few counter attacks, they'll get set pieces, they may well get a penalty, and then yeah, Marmoush maybe on pens as well. But I don't know. I feel more confident in Burma personally.
Yeah, I agree, and I think with Marmoush as well, he's not exactly playing as like a number nine. Like
True.
he's pretty much like kind of more on the wing. He does get good chances, though. I have noticed that, and he hasn't like really put them away. But yeah, I don't see. He's not like he's not a goal poacher. He's not that kind of goal hanger player where he's always in front of the goal and you're comfortable with him.
Exactly. To be fair, I don't think he's ever been that. But yeah, maybe people are thinking, oh, he's number 9 for City. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I think the last game I watched, it was more sort of a split strikers role, and he was more on the left,
yeah,
sort of left striker, and
yeah.
not fully the focal point of the team, which is what he's used to. To be fair, that's what he was like at his previous club. But
Mhm.
yeah, interesting nonetheless. Let us know in the comments down below. As you can see by the predicted points, very very close between a lot of these players. So who are you going for? I wish that YouTube polls were still a thing. I don't think they're a thing anymore. You used to be able to put a poll in the top right
Oh,
hand corner of a video, and people could like choose their option live as they're watching the video and see other people's results. For some reason, they took it away a few years ago. Very, very sad. But there we go. That is it for captaincy. I want to talk about now you're just starting 11 because I like your team a lot because I think it involves the vast majority of dilemmas that managers are going to have this week.
yeah.
Goalkeeper is fine, obviously. But you talked about Bournemouth now being favourites according to the bookies for that game.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for your defense?
So I'm still going to play Raya, right, over Areola.
Yeah.
At the moment, I've got Murphy, Kiwior, and Const on the bench. So I've gone for a double City defence, and I've got Munoz there. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. I think I'd rather double up on City this week than Arsenal. Again, looking at the bookies odds, they are the second favourites to keep a clean sheet after Everton. Gvardiol's, he has got that a bit of attacking threat in him as well. I know he's been playing more of like a left centre back lately, but he still gets a chance at set pieces in that. So yeah, I'm happy with that kind of setup. I think Murphy now. I think the more minutes Gordon plays, the less kind of chance that the less expected minutes he's got, and I think the more chance of him, just eventually getting benched. And I think Brighton at home, Brighton away is an okay fixture, but again, I can only see him getting about say 65 to 70 minutes in that game.
Yeah, that's fair. I was just thinking with Saar, for example, and Rogers, like, is there any sort of Rogers now? There's no sort of risk of rotation, I suppose. They're not in any other competitions. And the FA Cup final is on the 17th of May, so that's not really a concern for someone like a Saar. I presume it would be between those players for Murphy's potential replacement. But yeah, I've got Murphy, and I've also got Saar, and I've got Eze, and I'm thinking of starting the Palace boys. But what do you think? Like, how is Murphy still a good option, or do you think because of his minutes now being more at risk or just limited, he has actually come down? I mean, I don't know. Like, just looking through his like expected data from when he was doing so well, it was never like amazing. He was outperforming what you'd expect, but obviously a purple patch.
Yeah, but like he's always been a great option for his price, and he's only 5.3 million, and I still think he's a great option. But he was a much better option when Gordon was out completely.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore, so obviously that does dent his appeal a bit. But I just think with this week going up against Rodgers, who most likely will play 90 minutes, Sarr probably play 90 minutes. I mean, if you've noticed, I mean, it's usually Mateta and Eze who get taken off before Sarr. He seems to be the most nailed out of the three for the time being. So I'm quite confident in this minute. So obviously the fixture's a bit harder, but he's at home. I mean, he scored twice in the FA Cup, which was annoying. Saying if he's all those blanks for me, then he goes in and gets a brace in the FA Cup. But that goes to show, like, he's got goals in him, and he's got a big haul in him. He's proved that already this season. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with going with the minutes guys who are both at home instead of Murphy.
Okay. And then final thing I want to talk about, because I don't think there's too much to talk about this week in particular, is just the future and the potential doubles and blanks. Because I want to keep asking this question to the guests that we have on until we actually know what's going on, because new information potentially could be revealed every hour, every day. So what are you thinking right now in terms of 36, 37 and just your preparation for that?
Yeah, I think you just got to assume, Jack, that it's not going to happen. It's Thursday now. We might even get an announcement by the time this video comes out.
Yeah.
But I think we will get an announcement this week.
Actually, sorry, I've got to interrupt you. Of course, we've had an announcement, because that's how FPL YouTube works. 10 minutes after we finish recording, there'll be an announcement, and then this whole video will be pointless.
Well, I guess we could just talk about the permutations, right? So I think we will get an announcement this week, and it's either going to be, 36 doubles, 37 blank, right? Or, it's just going to stay as it is. There's going to be no doubles or blanks, and the fixtures in 37 are just going to move in the midweek in 37, right? So that's what I'm assuming is going to happen. And it's, I mean, I guess you could say for somebody like me who's got no chips left, it's probably a good thing. But I mean, I'd still say like I would like to have the doubles there, because it just gives that opportunity for that, the upside and a big rank increase. I think now from now until 38, if there's no doubles or blanks, it's going to be quite. I think a lot of teams are going to be quite similar, making the same transfers. Especially because a lot of us wildcarded at the same time in Gameweek 30 or 31 had the same chip strategy. So, yeah, I would like the doubles, but if they don't happen, they don't happen. We might get a surprise. Who knows? I mean, it's been full of surprises this season in terms of doubles and blanks, and the likes of Ben Crellin and Talha and these guys who are usually really good at predicting things. have been, sprung with quite a few surprises. So who knows? Let's see.
That's very true. The one thing I'll say about that is like, yeah, I'm the same with you as you. I don't have any chips left, but and I kind of agree. Like you look at everyone else's team that you see on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, and you're like, well, everyone wildcarded in whatever week it was. People have been on similar strategies, maybe slightly different, but the majority of people now have used all their chips, and everyone's got triple
Yeah.
Palace anyway. Everyone's got like if Villa had won that game. People have Villa players, people have Triple City. It doesn't matter if there are doubles or blanks. But I think like if there are 100,000 teams in the top 100k, which there often are, and a lot of those teams are not going to be on the similar strategies. They're not going to be as engaged. Like they might have had an amazing start to the season, and
Yeah.
wildcard is super early, and then have different teams now. You just don't see them because they're not really in our sort of realm of Twitter teams and really engaged managers like us and people watching right now, I would say. So the one thing about not having those doubles and blanks is that even without having chips, it gives you less of an opportunity, I think, to catch different teams from like less engaged managers, but who've had like a really good start or something. You're probably not going to catch another engaged manager who is 70 points ahead of you. Or in a similar strategy, sure. But you might catch somebody else whose team is like they're just sort of clinging on a little bit. So that would be a bit of a shame. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for this video. Anything else that we need to touch on? Really, it's pretty simple week. It seems like everyone's going to be making the same sort of transfer, but captaincy is interesting.
I think if you free hit last week, or this week, the game is still live, then I think it's going to be quite straightforward. And I think you either save or, if you've got Saka, you either bench him, or if you've got, somebody else who can play there, or if you've already got Mbeumo, you can bench Saka this week. I don't even think benching Saka is not a bad option because in Gameweek 36 they've got Newcastle and then Southampton. So if they go out with the Champions League, suddenly Saka becomes a good option again for 36 and 37.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's fairly simple. You either bench Saka or sell him, and that's it. And then wait for the doubles and blanks announcements hopefully this week.
I hope so. I suppose one final question could be, if you do have lots of chips left, and we can't go through every sort of variety of what chips you might have, but like what do you do? Do you just if the blanks and doubles don't come, do you just have to sort of analyze each week and just try and get lucky? Like say you're bench boosting 36, just have to do it without the doubles.
Yeah, I mean if you've got no choice, I mean I think you just have to. I mean, if you've got your assistant manager, you probably just play it this week. If you've got your triple captain, I think you just kind of play it by ear and bench boost as well. Just look for a because if there's no double, you just got to kind of play it by ear and see which week you've got a good bench and you think you're going to get a full 15 starters and then just go for it. But yeah, I do feel honestly a bit for those guys who saved their kind of chips a lot. I would say a lot, but quite a few managers saved their free hit and triple captain for like the 36, 37, blank doubles. If that doesn't happen, then they're going to be at a huge disadvantage.
Oh well, I mean that is kind of how it works with fantasy. Sometimes you can't.
Yeah, that was a risk. I mean, they knew that risk, and that was a risk they took.
Yeah, shame on them. Is all I can say. Thank you very much, mate. As always, good stuff. Pretty simple week. Let us know in the comments down below who you're captaining. That's the main thing I want to know, just to gauge a general sort of split between engaged managers. Thanks for watching, guys, as always. Thank you, Abdul, for the tips. And we will catch you next week.